Welcome back, guys. As we prepare for Team of the Year, there's some investments you need to make millions of coins. So if you're new around here and you need some coins, you're in the right place. Just make sure to subscribe to say thanks and, of course, drop a like down below. And if you do want some coins in a bit of a quicker way, well, if you guys are fed up of coming against neeks like me and foot champs who use loans and OP cards from day one,
I'm getting really sick of you! Get out now!
Then you need to head over to mitchcactus.com, where not only can you buy the cheapest and most reliable FIFA coins on the EA market, you'll find over 10,000 reviews from people who have used the services and enjoyed them in the past. So make sure to head over to mitchcactus.com and use code RECALL for 5% off. Of course, as many of you know, if we're doing an investment video, we go straight over to Footbin. Now, there's a few cards we're going to have a look at today on the basis of them being meta cards that are going to go and rise. And there's a few cards we're going to look at on the basis that it's fodder and they're also going to rise. But of course, we've had a few SBCs over the last week and of course the last coming days that have increased the fodder already. So in our last investment video, we did advise to invest in quite a few cards that have gone up. So you guys are welcome, but let's go find some more. Now, first of all, we've got Lionel Messi and of course his radioactive card. Now, by all means, I'm not suggesting any of us can just go and buy him. He's an absolute fortune at 1.2 million coins. However, what we're going to see over the Team of the Year period is this card rising in price. As people realize that Messi is so unpackable with his Team of the Year, people are going to want to go and buy this one. His price will also potentially initially drop, so you should be able to catch a dip. And then when it goes back up again, you're absolutely laughing. So if you want him for your team, then that's the time to buy him when he has that little dip. And if you want him for an investment, of course, you wait for that rise. Here's a card that we are going to see have quite a large rise as well. As people realize that Virgil van Dijk's base card is probably going to get nerfed and inevitably not be as good, we're going to see cards like Kyle Walker absolutely rise because he did manage to get in the Team of the Year undeservedly, and of course his Evo has passed, I believe. So if it's not passed, I think we're already near the end of it. So the reality is this card is your easiest access to an unbelievable Walker. Now, of course, you can play it at right back, you can play it at centre back, which is why there is kind of a bit of a preference to this one in theory, but that card is of course going to rise. I would assume that goes to 500k by the end of Team of the Year, if not 450 at minimum. Now, the other card we have to discuss in the same breath, of course, is Van Dijk. This card is, of course, going to rise. Initially, his base gold card will, of course, have a rise, being that it's out of packs. This card, of course, hasn't been in packs for a little while, but this card is going to go up. And then so is, of course, his 91. So you've got 1.6 million and you've got 600k there, both of which, obviously, a little bit different to the other. Now, this card here is brilliant. I predict this one will go to maybe 1.8 million as a sort of max. Once again, on a similar basis to Messi, people are going to realize they cannot pack his Team of the Year. This card rises. Now, if Team of the Year drop weight is insane, obviously this card goes down in price, but that's not going to be happening. I think the Team of the Year drop weight is going to be considerably worse than last year, and last year was the worst year we've ever had. So the reality is it's going to go and get a lot worse. I would predict that even though I've got so much ready that are big packs, I'm only going to get one at most, and it's probably going to be Earps or that keeper. You know, it's not looking good. Now, when we come over to fodder, there has been a few big changes. Of course, on the 83 market, things have gone up. We've got 1.5k as the absolute minimum now, whereas before you could pick these up for 1.2, 1.3. With our 84s, we haven't seen a lot of movement as more recently, but then we've got the 85s, the 86, similar story. Then when we go into the kind of higher realms, there is a bit of a jump. You go from essentially 8, 9k all the way to 15. So you can see where players have been affected by their rating and of course the SBCs they're out. I mean, if we go over to 90 rated, it's absolutely ridiculous, and the cheapest 92 is an icon. So that kind of says a lot about where we're standing with those kind of ratings. So where you want to stay at the minute in terms of picking up your cards based on rating is your 86, your 85s and your 84s. So if we have a look at these, realistically there is a few filters off the bat that you want to look at. Your 86s, of course, German La Liga Santander is always going to be really good for centre mids. You're going to have Cruz and Gundogan. So very simply, you got two of the lower sort of midfielders in the mix already in a filter together. If we have a look through sort of who else is in here, we've got the likes of Little, you've got Saka, we've got Delict. So there are a few people in here who we could definitely try and filter out. Now, Mane is definitely one to have a look at because we could probably pick him up in a similar filter with Ronaldo. Now, unfortunately, we've had a look and actually we can't do a filter with Ronaldo and Mane, but of course there are other filters we can do with 86s. So if we take our way over to pretty much a few of the leagues, we can get an 86 filter. The issue is right now the under 10k mark is quite difficult to run with. So there's a couple options. We do have, I believe, off the top of my head, Barclays Premier League, Women's, Chelsea and centre back. I think if we pop gold rare there, you've got Buchanan and Bright on a nice little 85 filter. So 85s are of course purchasable at the minute. If you head over to the Prem, of course we talked about these filters pretty much every investment video because they work every time for the 84s. You've got the likes of Newcastle United, Brazil, Arsenal, Brazil, both gold rare, very easy filters to run around with. And if you want a pretty easy 83 filter, if we go over to gold rare centre backs and you want to go to Inter Milan, pretty easily we've got these guys both sitting around 1.5, obviously as we saw there before. So it's a nice little one to stock up on your 83s. Now these have had a rise already, but I think with how the market will go over team of the year, there is going to be more rises and there's going to be a lot of fodder being wasted and people are going to need to replenish it. So of course they're going to have to buy these cards. And if we head over to of course gold rare Serie A, what we can do is pop Playstars Plus on. We're going to be left with the likes of, you've got Leao, who won't really come up, but you've got Chiesa and Alberto. So those two really easy to snipe between at that kind of price at the minute. And it's a pretty easy one to go through most of the leagues with just Playstars Plus on. We can have a look at the lower end. There's usually not 82s in. On some of the teams there will be, but for example if we were to look at this one, we could single it off to PSG, or we could go for, let's have a look at the other, yeah, PSG would probably be the best move there. If we go over to, for example, League One, if we have a look there, you've got a similar story. I don't know how Wahi has made it on there, but you could pop over to just PSG there, so that's easy enough to look at. The next one, obviously, if we have a look at the Premier League, I think there's a few stinkers in the Premier League with them, so Palhinha being definitely one of the absolute stinkers, but you can single this out in a few different ways. Of course, we could look at Man United players, because you will have the likes of Fernandes, and I know there's another one, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. You could do defenders from Liverpool, but it might be a little bit of a sticky one. And the other one really easy is, of course, Chelsea and defender, because that's going to give you Reece James and Thiago Silva. So go and invest in your players, get your meta cards, and of course subscribe to the channel while you're here.